Welcome. I'll be covering some of my favorite moments and general running commentary on Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episodes 5 and 6. Did anyone else shout, "Activate the Omega 13" during the opening scene? Just me? What a creepy hallucination. My first thought was, you better tell your mother about this, because I feel like she could help. And sure enough, he took my advice. I know Picard meant well when he suggested that Jack join Starfleet, but it's not for everyone. I'm not sure he's right for it. Some people can do a lot more good in the world when they don't have restraints on them. They can just go with their gut. And I think he's one of those people. Personally, I like rules and order. I am just Starfleet through and through, but I recognize that not everyone is. That was an adorable scene between the two of them, though. They really got closer this episode. I loved the Rafi and Worf training sequence with that music. Do 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 do. I can't do it, but you know what I mean. Those two are my favorite storyline going on right now. I wish we had more of them. Worf's constant Qui-Gon meditation in the middle of situations was just the best. Can you imagine being in the middle of an argument and the person is just like, what do you even do? I don't know if it would work in real life. Maybe if you did it together, like if you had a really bad argument with a friend and you're like, meditation time, and you both just sit down, that could be good. Shaw is an awkward elevator guy. I would not have guessed that.
1,000 light years from Earth and you're still awkward in the elevator.
The chemistry between these three is fantastic, especially since Shaw was kind of right about the chaos they've been causing. I mean, most of us were there to witness it. This is where the screaming commences. Commander Rose showing up. Oh, I think the neighbors heard me. Not having the earring was odd, but I remember the whole to-do about it way back in TNG. So I was mildly suspicious of her, but not entirely. I'm like, this could or could not be Ro. I'm not sure yet. The fact that blood tests won't work anymore is terrifying. They basically have Cylon skin jobs now. All of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. That "you're a changeling, no, you're a changeling" moment between Picard and Ro on the holodeck was so good. It also convinced me that she was real. There's no way a changeling would have that level of humor. In the end, I think it's all about knowing someone really well and talking with them alone. They have to know things that a changeling couldn't find out just by perusing a database. The line, "You confuse morality with duty," and then talking about how honor doesn't mean blind faith in an institution, that's the Ro I know, and guaranteed it's really her. And it was. I'm so glad that those two got a sort of closure. Their storyline was just so tragic. And the fact that they got to sit down and really talk it through and understand each other, I think was so important. And an incredible moment on Star Trek. This is not the first time we've gotten a Starfleet compromised storyline, but you know what? I enjoy it every time. I don't care. What a choice getting Kirk on the show, and not just because of the actor's name. He is a fantastic sci-fi guy, and he has this presence to him that is always memorable. Plus, it was an intriguing story about a Vulcan and a Ferengi growing up together, and like the Vulcan mob boss. It was great how at the end there's this really tense moment and they're like, "You have to give us the key." And the average villain in that situation would be like, "Never." But he was all, "That's logical." Great moment. I absolutely loved his line about loyalty is what real family is. That's the real definition, if you ask me. So Kryn is a fantastic villain. I loved him. I hope he comes back. I wasn't at all worried about Worf in any of this because Likely he would just use a meditation technique to stop his heart or whatever, and that's exactly what he did. It was a fun fight sequence to watch, though. Crisp choreography, intense but not worrying. And even though it was an obvious payback to have Worf just appear after dying, it was still very satisfying. I knew those security officers were suspicious. I hate being right about these things. This is the part of the episode where I started crying. Ro was one of my favorite characters on Next Generation. I think my favorite episode was the one where she was out of phase. The bad guy was also out of phase, and they were like running through the Enterprise, going through walls. And oh, it was great. I loved that episode. Quintessential Ro right there. And to get her back, only to lose her in the same episode? At least she went out fighting for what she believed, and that's what she would have wanted. But it doesn't make it any easier to lose her. And now the USS Intrepid turned all ominous. As grumpy as he is, I'm glad that we have Shaw on our side. He thinks very differently than Will and Picard, and so I think he'll be an integral member of the team because he has a different perspective. Whoa. Jack just pulled a river in Serenity on those changelings. Although now he has a phaser, so it could turn into his dream sequence, which is concerning. The spy chip in Ro's earring. What a moment. And when she gave it to Picard. Oh, I really enjoyed the ending though, where Shaw was just going into super panic mode. And he's like, Dank Varric, you've brought me into one of your shenanigans. How could you do this to me? How could you do this? I'm a regular Starfleet officer. I don't do all this, whatever you two do. But then, of course, he realizes he kind of has to be. And he was just like, oh. Fine, I'll help you. On to episode 6, Engage. Ah, the villain monologue. I think she's been giving more rousing speeches than any other character on the show, which is saying a lot considering it's called Picard. Again, we had a bit of a Firefly Serenity movie reference, I think, here. Remember when the Alliance was going out, wiping out their allies? Same deal here, where she's like, I'm gonna find everyone who's ever helped them and eliminate them. I'm like, okay, Alliance Captain. This also instantly made me really worried about Deanna Troi. And I was like, Will, I hope the first thing you did after we went rogue was to call Deanna and be like, get into hiding. Take our family and run. No, she showed up at the end of the episode. At least we think it's her. Could still be a changeling. But I think it was really, unfortunately, Deanna. Oh, it was so cute. Worf was counting every day he was apart. And it was hilarious about the sour mead. It does narrow down a little bit more about the type of wines that Picard was crafting, though. Unfortunately, it looks like the Rafi 7 breakup was real. I was hoping she was just saying that because of her cover story. I mean, it seems amicable. They were very polite and cordial to each other, but there were some awkward moments there. And now they're discussing going into Daystrom, and Picard was like, we need to burgle it. And Riker went, excellent use of the word burgle. Then my favorite moment of the episode happened, which is when Shaw gave that little #respect. Honestly, it's like he's sitting around with popcorn, just watching everything play out and doing reactions. Like he's part of the audience. When Picard asked for volunteers for the away mission, I was like, yes. Even though it was semi-suicidal. So I'm curious, would you have volunteered to go to Daystrom? The moment when they managed to disable the AI did make me laugh a bit, because it seemed like it was about to incinerate them or something, and then they got the key in, and it went Please, no food or beverages in the research areas. The Tribble cameo was pretty fun too. Speaking of cameos, Professor Moriarty? What? That took me by surprise. At first, I hoped it was really him, that there wasn't an AI and they had just gotten Moriarty on their side, but no. Just a projection, which is too bad. I guess it's because Data was somewhat kind of hooked into the system. At first, I was upset with them for getting so obsessed with the fact that this kind of new Data was there. And I'm like, guys, you have a mission. You're getting sidetracked. But no, it's fine. He was their mission. Fleet Museum means Jordy. I was so excited at first, and then he was just grumpy like Shaw. And I was all, no, Jordy. And the way he was kind of interacting with his daughters, clearly there was a backstory there. And sure enough, they gave us a little bit of it. And at the end, he realized he was just being too overprotective. He needed to let them be their own people, kind of get in tune with his younger self again. And he was back to being Jordy by the end. But there was a while there where I was like, come on. It was good writing, though, because people change over the years. We don't stay the same. Then came my second favorite moment because that was just showing us around the Fleet Museum. I, again, screamed way too loud when I saw the Defiant. What a moment. I kind of wished at first that they could take that ship, because imagine another Defiant show. And then they showed Voyager with the theme going. Da, 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 da. Oh, it brought back so many memories. I watched that show when I was in college, and I usually was doing homework at the time. And I remember doing my homework. I was an art student, so it was drawing. It's not like I was doing math. Working on my stuff and hearing that music, knowing the show would be incredible, knowing I'd see 7 of 9 in a few minutes. So nostalgic. And then the Voyage Home reference with the whales. The minute I saw the bird of prey, I was like, cloaking device. Jack had the exact same thought I did. Good thing Geordi was there, because none of them were engineers. We have a rogue medical person and a pilot trying to install a cloaking device. Not going to end well there. There was a really sweet moment between Jack and his father where he talks about how getting to know him more was what he needed to realize that maybe he has some good things from his father, bravery and wisdom. And that's something to be proud of. Plus, the LaForges are working together again. We might get Data back. This episode was a lot about healing, relationships especially. Okay, why do the changelings want Picard's remains? Is the syndrome more than it appears to be? I feel like it is, because they must have studied Picard and went, this is important. We need someone else who has this syndrome, preferably alive to study. And voila, Jack. I'm guessing they need a living subject to experiment on. Highly enjoyable episode with so many Easter eggs for fans. There was even a BSG reference thrown in because I'm pretty sure I heard somebody going, Starbuck, over on Daystrom Institute. Fascinating episode, well balanced, plenty of action and character moments. Season 3 continues to impress.